Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Kia ora, Bolt fam. It's the director. Chargers fans, well, we got a bit of news in the NFL world. Odell Beckham Jr. is on the move. He's officially beginning his tour to find which team that he wants to potentially join here in the next couple of weeks. And the Los Angeles Chargers have indeed been designated as a landing spot for OBJ. I've seen a lot of Chargers fans on Twitter get excited about the thought of this one. And you know what? I came into doing this video with a very stern opinion of what I think about the whole Odell Beckham Jr. to the Los Angeles Chargers idea. And since then, in doing the research for this video, I think my mind has just been changed a little bit. Let me know in the comment section below who does the same thing for you guys. Should be very interesting. So today is all things OBJ. How would he fit in with the Chargers? Can the Bolts even afford him? How much would he cost? When is he coming back? Etc., etc. Let's get into this one. Now, before we do, guys, Thursday Night Football and Underdog Fantasy is here to help you be part of the action. Of course, like every week, we do have our picks for tonight's game. If you guys want to copy my picks, if you want to tell me what works for you, what you're thinking, let me know in the comment section down below. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Of course, last week we hit big with a $500 win in the Sunday slate. Looking to maybe hit again here on the Thursday slate. Now, as a reminder, we do have a giveaway going on right now. We're giving away this signed Antonio Gates jersey to one of my lucky subscribers. All you got to do to be entered for this is hit up the link in the description, follow the instructions there, very simple, and make sure you are subscribed. Only subs can win. But around here, we always do giveaways in twos. We're also giving away this signed LaDainian Tomlinson jersey to one of my crew members as a thanks from me to you guys. All you got to do to be entered for this is be a member of my crew, and that's it. We're drawing the winner here in the next few days. Now let's jump into it. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. Odell Beckham Jr. to the Chargers. Is this happening? Should it happen? Could he fit in with the team? Do the Chargers need him right now? Well, we got a lot of questions to answer right now. So obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. going on his tour, looking for his next team. There's a lot of options sitting in front of him, right? Buffalo Bills, Rams, Buccaneers, Packers, Chiefs, Chargers. I think some of the biggest things that they have in common are, I would say, that they're all playoff contenders, right? With really good quarterbacks. And of course, you cannot dismiss the Chargers as a possibility here. So before we even dive into a bunch of the things in terms of, like, talking topics, I do want to say that Odell Beckham Jr. is on the table for the Chargers, okay? Now, whether or not it makes sense for both sides is left to be seen. So let's kind of jump into some of those points here. First off, with the Chargers, the team specifically, the Chargers kind of do need help at wide receiver, which is really crazy to think about because coming into the season, it felt like this team was very loaded at wide receiver. And here in just the first few short weeks of the season, it seems like the Chargers could definitely use some help. Now, I would view the Chargers heavily as a passing team, so having a good amount of very talented wide receivers is almost a must for this particular offense. But as I said before, the Chargers have seen their share of injuries just here into week 4, and one position in particular is going to be wide receiver. They are struggling to stay healthy. Of course, week 1, Keenan Allen goes down, and he has not been back since week 1. He should return soon, but he is dealing with a hamstring injury, and that's what scares me the most in terms of Keenan Allen. When Keenan's on the field, this team is evidently just so much better. And again, we're thinking he's going to be back sooner rather than later, but with hamstring injuries, it's so tricky because they can just flare up at any time. It's really difficult to say, hey, Keenan, when he's back, he'll be here for the rest of the season. Now, we can all knock on wood and hope that's the case because this team, again, he is our wide receiver one, the most talented, player perhaps outside of Justin Herbert on offense for the Bolts. But at the same time, this team went all in this offseason. If Odell, or if I should say Keenan Allen, if he's not going to be available 100% of this season, which he already isn't, maybe the Chargers should start looking at, how do we massage this issue to make sure going in all in this season isn't thrown off track in any way by Keenan Allen dealing with this hamstring. But again, knock on wood, and hopefully optimistically looking at the situation, Keenan Allen should be back sooner than later. The Chargers also lost their speed wide receiver in Jalen Guyton, who's out for the year with a torn ACL. Josh Palmer's now dealing with an ankle injury. It's really starting to stack up for the Chargers at the position of wide receiver. This really just leaves our healthy wide receivers as Mike Williams, DeAndre Carter, and at this point, let's say Michael Bandy, right? Michael Bandy's been looking fantastic out there. Either way, you know, you take a look at the Chargers wide receivers right now, the best one of which being Mike Williams, who can be a capable wide receiver one. Don't get me wrong. He is fantastic, but he is known to being a little bit shaky when it comes to his health. And again, we're going to be knocking on wood a lot this video because we cannot see Mike Williams go down at any point this season. We're already so, stretched thin at the position as it is right now. Can we count on Mike Williams to stay healthy? I don't know. At this point, it really does feel like wide receiver is bumping in terms of priority for me because, again, the Chargers are just so evidently a passing football team. And if without weapons, it's going to be that much more difficult for Justin Herbert this season. So our decent wide receiver depth is being tested pretty early, right? Because I did like Jalen Guyton, DeAndre Carter, Michael Bandy. But now who's behind these guys? I don't know, man. Maybe wide receiver is not a bad idea to start testing in terms of bringing guys in, which the Chargers already did with Ross, I do believe. We just did bring in another wide receiver. Doss, I should say, right? Doss was the wide receiver they brought in just yesterday. So adding a difference maker like Odell Beckham Jr. would be huge, right? You're not just talking about a depth guy. You're talking about a starter for this team, and he could be a massive addition if the team can stay healthy, which would include now the talents of, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Odell Beckham Jr. That would be pretty insane if the three of them can stay healthy, and that does include Odell Beckham Jr. himself. So let's talk about Odell Beckham, the player, right? Why Odell Beckham Jr.? Why would the Chargers, let's say if they were saving this money for a big transaction this offseason, or during the season, I should say, why would Odell make some of the most sense for the Chargers? And to me, it's because of what Odell Beckham Jr. is as a player, right? To me, Odell Beckham Jr. provides exactly what the Chargers really need right now on offense. And let me say, their offense can be very good, right? We've seen it at times be very good. Justin Herbert last week, 340 yards. Mike Williams, 120 yards. That stuff can happen. But what the Chargers are really lacking right now is big play ability. And that is exactly what Odell Beckham Jr. embodies as a player. The Chargers, after the loss of Jalen Guyton, are especially lacking on speed as well. And then these are two things that Odell Beckham Jr. can bring to the table. Now, sure, OBJ isn't Tyreek Hill out there, but he would instantly be the fastest wide receiver on the roster. And yes, even faster than DeAndre Carter, who is our current speedy guy on the team. And the only one I would say at the position of wide receiver. And you guys know how I feel about speed. The Chargers are lacking right now. And although speed is extremely important for a team like the Chargers, it's what Odell Beckham Jr. does with that speed that matters to me, right? There's a difference between, John Ross, the fastest player to run the 40, and a guy like Tyreek Hill who has a speed, but then some, right? It's how you use that speed that really matters to me. And OBJ is exceptional all around as a wide receiver with the speed on top of that. And again, he's not what I would consider a speedster, but he certainly is very fast and would be the fastest wide receiver for the Chargers. He's exceptional in all route, or he's an all-around overall very good route runner as a player, right? All depths on the field. I've seen him thrive, at pretty much every level. But his deep threat ability is especially dangerous when it comes to OBJ. The Chargers are sorely lacking in speed right now, and they need a guy who can keep opposing defensive backs off balance. Right now, that only guy is DeAndre Carter. And I do think Carter can provide some big play ability, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. And with him being the only one on the roster now to provide that kind of skill set, it makes me worried about his availability going forward. Getting a guy like OBJ out there, this would open things up tremendously for Keenan, Mike, Eckler, everybody playing underneath. If you've got a deep threat guy like Odell Beckham Jr., who also has the spectacular playability, defenses are going to have to respect that, right? And it's going to make things a lot easier for Justin Herbert in the long run, even at the short to intermediate parts of the field. But we can't forget what a quarterback like Justin Herbert can do with a speedy weapon like Odell Beckham Jr. It's absolutely insane to think of the potential of these two pairing up and playing together. OBJ is an incredible player in the intermediate and deep parts of the field, right? Using his agility and acceleration to create space. And that's the X factor that separates a John Ross and a Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill can create space even in the deep parts of the field with exceptional route running and separation. Herbert needs more weapons like this to utilize that part of the field, right? At this point, it doesn't feel like that part of the field is being utilized when we have a quarterback with one of the best arms in the NFL. That kind of seems like a waste, a shame, right? If you got a quarterback that can sling it that far with that kind of velocity and speed, you want a weapon that can access that part of the field and give him another weapon to further give him more options in the offense, in the passing offense. He needs that. And not to say guys like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams can't do the same. Of course they can operate in that same part of the field. They just lack the speed to utilize those routes at a consistent level, right? You can't ask Mike Williams to go out deep, 30-40% of the time. That's just not going to work either with Keenan Allen too. If you can have a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., however, testing that part of the field very consistently, it's going to force people to step back a little bit and maybe even provide opportunities for Justin Herbert to hit him deep. There's a lot of things you can do with a weapon like OBJ. And OBJ can access that part of the field very, very quickly, which again would bring that consistency to the position. Matching that kind of talent with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who I honestly think we could see a huge uptick on touchdowns further than 20 yards. And we need them at this point, right? You guys remember in 2020, Justin Herbert kept defenses sweating with his ability to hit either Jalen Guyton or Tyron Johnson on deep throws on any given drive. And this, again, did open up things for Austin Ekeler, especially underneath. In 2020 and 2021, Austin Ekeler definitely had some space to operate. This season, it's been a completely different story. We'll get into more of that in just a second. And, he did, right? Justin Herbert did hit these guys a lot. And although these guys, Tyron Johnson, Jalen Guyton, were very fast, they were nowhere near the route runners Odell Beckham Jr. is. OBJ on the surface, in my opinion, coming into this video, felt maybe a little bit excessive, right? Like, yeah, he's a big play guy. Alone, he's a great talent. But did the Chargers need him with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams? Well, with their health concerns aside, I think my answer would have been no. But it's also what OBJ provides the rest of the team that most intrigues me, right? His presence and his ability to be on the field does affect everything underneath, and then even himself creating opportunities to convert on third down. There's a lot that he can bring individually with his talent and his presence. So why would the Chargers do this, right? Well, I kind of view it as doubling down on your strengths, right? The Chargers have really struggled to get the run game going this season, and it's an aspect of the game that's hugely important to the health of their offense. But at this point, it feels like the play calling could be a lot better in terms to help this, but it also has something to do with the Bolts failing to create space on their for their backs, okay? And I believe we could help that aspect out tremendously with a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. Like I said before, if he's going to be out there, it's going to create space for guys like Austin Ekeler to operate because the defense is going to have to adjust. Doubling down and leaning in on your strength as a passing offense can and will create space for your running backs to get to work. 3 dangerous wide receivers, that creates a huge threat when you try to defend the run, right? How many players do you commit to the box? How many, linebackers can you commit, when maybe you should be looking at nickel or dime versus Odell Beckham Jr., Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams? It does create a lot of opportunities on the ground. And the Chargers found tremendous success last week versus the Houston Texans, kind of, testing things out in this realm, right? The Chargers found success, in motioning players in tight formations to build space for Austin Ekeler. And it really did work. And you can use very similar concepts if you've got the 3 wide receivers that demand that kind of respect. The concepts, maybe like more RPOs, draws, counters to take advantage of a weak box. You can create that kind of mismatch for Austin Ekeler to help get the Chargers running back room maybe back up to speed in terms of that rushing attack. That really does help, again, elevate your passing, elevate your running. You're trying to get everything as balanced as possible. And just the presence of Odell Beckham Jr. alone would help the Chargers execute more effective plays to help the run game. But beyond that, the Chargers would certainly seem like one of the most unstoppable offenses through the air in 2020. So yes, it's going to help the running attack, which they definitely need help with right now, but it would definitely create a statement to the NFL that this team is not to be messed with through the air. You better have 1 or 2 very good cornerbacks if you're going to stand a chance versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And at this point, I think leaning into that strength is your best option if you're struggling on the ground right now. And again, they kind of go hand in hand. They'll help each other out. A threat through the air is dangerous, and maybe even enough to create space just by existing, right? Just by having him on the field would be enough to make a difference. But the threat would be very real in the terms of what the Bolts would be able to do with OBJ through the air. With so many options to throw to for Justin Herbert, I would foresee a very difficult it would be very difficult for a team to get the Chargers off the field on third down, especially because I would foresee a lot of fewer third downs completely. The Chargers at this point of the season, they do struggle on third down a little bit, especially without Keenan Allen, but Odell Beckham Jr. would be able to help supplement that just a little bit. Keeping this offense consistent, keeping drives healthy, very important for this team who does have an offense that can match right now. You've got to make sure that the defense that can match. You've got to make sure that the offense can keep pace with that. If you can bring balance between what the defense and the offense brings, that's just going to result in a heck of a lot more wins. So what would this team look like through the air? Well, you're looking at a dominant trio, right? Let's say best case scenario for the Chargers, Keenan Allen comes back, Mike Williams stays healthy for a majority, if not all of the season. You're looking at Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Odell Beckham Jr. That's ridiculous, right? That would be one of the nastiest Chargers wide receiver rooms we've ever seen. And with Keenan in the slot, Mike Williams, Odell Beckham Jr. on the outside, Herbert would have elite talent in every corner of the field. And this opens up a lot of what you can do with each receiver, likely facing single coverage, right? Thinking about Mike Williams in single coverage, that's great in terms of 50-50 ball playability. His ability to get open, which we've seen a lot more lately, just isolating him from the X position opens up a lot of opportunity for Mike Williams. One-on-one with Keenan Allen, forget about it. He's going to get open every single time. Drives will become more healthy. And then there's Odell Beckham Jr., who could also provide a lot of what Keenan Allen does, maybe with a little bit more speed on top of it, but also provide that deep threat playability as well. That's very dangerous. Now, what happens if the Chargers are missing a Keenan Allen for a majority of the season, or there is an issue with Mike Williams going down at some point in the season? Again, knock on wood. Well, you would still be looking at a very dominant duo. And this is a formula that the Chargers have found success with in recent seasons with, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. You can supplement guys, right? You can use Odell Beckham Jr. with his spectacular catchability to supplement a Mike Williams position a little bit. If it's Keenan Allen that remains maybe hindered with the hamstring, you can definitely supplement a Keenan Allen, third down ability, getting open ability with Odell Beckham Jr. It just really does feel like it not only fits what the team is trying to do through the air, but covers our bases in the event that the Chargers are a bit thin at wide receiver going forward, especially how they're lacking at depth at this point. So it feels like either way, you're looking at you have a very straight, a shot to the playoffs as far as your offensive weapons are concerned, if adding Odell Beckham Jr. does become a priority. So let's talk about how likely is this to happen, right? What are the facts we should be looking at in terms of Odell Beckham Jr. actually joining the Chargers? Well, the first thing I would have to say is his availability. Of course, Odell Beckham Jr. did go down with an ACL tear in February, and from what I'm looking at, it seems that he should be available sometime early November to mid-November. And of course, that's still like a month away for the Chargers. At this point, with Odell Beckham Jr. making his, rounds throughout the NFL, is he going to get signed sooner than later? Maybe added to the IR until he's available and ready to become a part of a Sunday Action Football? I don't know. But it feels like the team that lands him is going to have to sign him, yes, maybe a little bit early and wait for him to be cleared to get on the field. That is a little bit sketchy to me, right? And in being an ad so late in the season, how much of an effect can he bring? Well, we did see that used as an example with the Los Angeles Rams. He was a late ad for them last year, too. I think only getting in around 7 or 8 games. And he was a huge difference maker for Matthew Stafford going forward. I went through and watched every single Odell Beckham Jr. play in his time as a Los Angeles Ram. And I got to tell you, he definitely is a big reason why they made it to the Super Bowl and it thrived in the Super Bowl itself. Even with only having a couple catches in the Super Bowl, that touchdown was rather spectacular. And again, that kind of talent is definitely why he's worth the risk to a lot of teams and perhaps even the Chargers. So to answer his availability question, I would say he should be back from his ACL tear sooner than later. I would say, again, conservatively between the early November and mid-November is when we're likely to see OBJ ready to return. Next up, can the Chargers afford him at this point too? This is going to be a big point to be made in terms of making sense for the Chargers, money-wise. The Chargers at this point around $8 million in cap space. You'd like to see a lot of that money transferred over into next season and roll over to help them where they are deficient at this point. And that's something that definitely still needs to remain on the table if you're a Chargers fan. How are the Chargers going to go forward in preparing for Justin Herbert's massive contract? Any sort of, free agent ads we're going to have to add next season. Existing free agents like Nasir Adderley that we're going to have to pay. Does Odell Beckham Jr. fit the cards? Well, fortunately, there's a couple of things working for the Chargers in this instance. For one, Odell Beckham Jr. played on a $1.2 million contract last season. Again, and in the NFL, that's almost nothing. I will have to point out, though, this is likely because he took the deal after collecting dead money from the Browns and being released from Cleveland. However, that being said, the other thing that we have to consider is that Odell is going to be coming into the season rather late, okay? And if it's a one-year deal like what I'm likely projecting the Chargers would offer, I would say that it would have to be somewhere pretty cheap, a lot cheaper than you would normally expect Odell Beckham Jr. to take on a one-year contract. Again, because at this point, you can almost view it as a half-year contract, a third-year contract in terms of, 1/3 of the season rather than the full season. I've heard that he wants somewhere around $7 million, which again, the Chargers could afford it, but I would highly recommend not doing that just because, again, he's going to be coming in very late. Is it really worth that much money for just a few games? I'm not quite sure. But, for when he'll be available, I'd have to imagine the number would be somewhere south of $5 million. And at that point, I would definitely consider it. If Odell Beckham Jr. agrees to a contract around $3 million, especially if it's just a one-year thing, I think it's something the Chargers could heavily consider. Again, because the cap, you can move things around. And the Chargers are going to be looking very healthy by the time Justin Herbert is up for his contract extension after next season. It's very interesting to see how the Chargers can fit in more players, similarly to how the Rams actually brought in Odell Beckham Jr. in their Super Bowl winning season. So how likely is this to happen if you guys are coming in here like, oh, well, let's skip to the end and see what the director says. How likely is it for Odell Beckham Jr. to be joining the Chargers this offseason, or I should say this regular season? I would say to you guys, honestly, I feel like the likeliness of OBJ joining the Bolts is a bit low. The Chargers are among the favorites. I understand that he was listed, per, a bunch of sources that they are definitely in consideration as far as a contender for Odell Beckham Jr. But at this point, if a team like Green Bay or Buffalo offers more, I think it would be a no-brainer for OBJ because these teams are playoff contenders. These teams do have elite quarterbacks, and I would say at this point they maybe have more money than the Chargers. But I cannot rule it out either. I cannot rule out Odell Beckham Jr. coming to the Chargers either because OBJ does know the market in Los Angeles. He found great success playing with Matthew Stafford and could find even more success playing with Justin Herbert, and the Chargers are a playoff contending team. They do have an elite quarterback. And we have to assume that Odell Beckham Jr. is paying close attention to the Chargers right now. Maybe the Rams truly can't afford him. Maybe he does want to play for the team across the street. You know what I mean? And after the Khalil Mack trade that took place this offseason, I think anything's on the table for me and most Chargers fans at this point. So my bottom line in this video, honestly, before looking into the Odell Beckham Jr. situation, him as a player, et cetera, I was very against the idea. I was like, nah, the Chargers need to save every penny that they can for the rollover next season. We've got weapons on the offense already, even if the health is a bit of an issue. But now that I've, taken a proper look at OBJ, what he brings to the table, how he would fit, I'm all about it, man. The Chargers passing attack is already very good, but they are missing a couple of key components, and that's speed and big playability. And right now, that's pretty much what embodies an Odell Beckham Jr. as a player. I'm all about adding a difference maker like that in a season where the Chargers have gone all in and proven that this is what they've committed to. It's too late to go back. Let's go ahead and double down on that passing attack with Odell Beckham Jr. because now that we have a defense that can keep up with Justin Herbert in this offense, why not take full advantage of that while you have it, while all the team is together, while the band is together this season? Go all in and make a true statement that this is the year we've decided is the Chargers season. I think Odell Beckham Jr. could be the cherry on top to make that happen. Will it happen? Again, I don't know. You guys in the comment section below, let me know. Out of 10, I'm going to give it like a 4 out of 10 chance that he joins the Los Angeles Chargers. Maybe that's a little bit high, but you guys let me know in the comment section below what you think the odds are in Odell Beckham Jr. joining the Bolts, and if you'd be about it. Are you against it? Are you for it? Let me know in the comment section below. After all, we have to remember that the Rams did, however, win a Super Bowl with this man, and it's a formula that's been proven to work and a formula that the Chargers are following right now. I say let's give it a shot. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been The Director. Remember to hit up Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action of Thursday Night Football. Go ahead and use my picks if that is something you guys want to do. And also let me know what works for you guys, what you're looking at, what you're thinking about in that matchup. We'll be posting our Sunday matchups likely tomorrow in our preview video versus the Cleveland Browns. Well, again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Odell Beckham Jr. to the Chargers. I gotta say, man, I wasn't about it. Looking into it, now I'm about it.